Hello, and welcome to Autology, the weekly podcast that brings you the latest on automotive technology. This week's episode is called In Electric Chemistry, NCM, LFP, and the Future of Battery Cathodes. And you're here with me, Yanina Mills. We have Dr. Richard Kim, who's leading the battery research in IHS Markit's automotive group, alongside Dr. Yumin Rong, who is leading battery research on clean energy technology. Hello to you both, and thank you for joining this week's episode of Autology.
Thank you, Yanina, for your introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Kim, and I'm so glad to be part of this Autology podcast again. It'll be more than happy to discuss cathode material technology, especially today, and the market with Dr. Rong. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Richard and Yanina. I'm Yumin Rong, and I'm the battery expert in the clean energy technology team based in Beijing, and very happy to talk to you all today.
Great. Thank you. So this week's podcast is all about batteries and battery market. So the first question that I have is a fundamental one, and that's how does the battery work?
So the battery really works by the principle of electrochemistry. So in order for that to work, we need a lithium ion to move between what's so-called cathode and an anode. So to store that lithium ion, we really need very high capacity cathode materials and graphite anode materials. So that would be what's known today, what's so-called nickel, cobalt, manganese, ternary cathode, lithium cathode, and some other cathodes we're going to be covering today as well, called LFP, and that's lithium phosphate, iron phosphate. So, and the other side, of course, you need anode. For lithium ion to really move around between these two cathodes, we also need electrolyte. And to make sure we don't cause any short circuiting, we need a separator in between anode and the cathode. So with that all, those are the major components that would lead to a lithium-ion battery to work.
Thank you, Yumi, for your battery fundamentals. Then I would like to add shed some light on the automotive batteries, especially for their vehicle electric propulsion system. For example, in hybrids, nickel metal hydride batteries were mostly used mainly by Toyota, but recently more lithium-ion batteries are used in different hybrids of different brands. When it comes to plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles, of course, lithium-ion batteries are used greatly. And when it comes to hybrids, if we talk a little bit about the technologies, the discharge output for motor propulsion is more important than the plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles. And charging power for battery electric vehicles gets more important as more vehicles are taking higher battery capacities. So what I mean by that is technical requirements is diverse depending on electric propulsion type. So I mean the requirements are different in terms of charge, discharge power output, cycle life, cost, volumetric density, specific density, and then what else? Safety, and so on and so forth. Therefore, I would like to say all of the four factors like cathode, anode, electrolyte, and separator, and Dr. Rong as talked, all of those are non-trivial at all. And every single technology of the four are actually evolving. So, I think we are going to focus on cathode material today. So, yeah, I'm very happy to talk about the others things about the cathode material.
So, on that topic, why is cathode material so important in battery technology?
That's a really good question, really. So basically, what's most important on the notion that we need to talk about cathode materials today is really, it's the single most costly material. Basically, it's a composition of materials within a battery cell. So we really need cathode materials to help increase the energy density of a battery cell. So how much lithium ion can be stored on the cathode side will eventually help the number of lithium ions stored when it's been charged. Number of ions, lithium ions, basically stored on the graphite side. So that's about cost and energy density. We need the lower down the cathode materials cost so that we can reduce the cell cost and also continually increase energy density or capacity of cathode materials in order to help increase cell energy density and energy density at pack level. And sometimes, we also play around a little bit with composition of cathode materials so that we can, have a higher discharging power, so we can have a much faster acceleration and also much longer, basically power hose. But also, we also play around the composition of cathode materials so that we can work around fast charging. So like Tesla and other automakers are doing. So really, so the materials we want to really talk about today is LFP and NC, like we just covered earlier in our first question. So these materials can be very different on the parameters we just talked about, and I'm very happy to share more in the following questions.
Great, thank you. I mean, is there any implication for the vehicle in terms of maybe the importance of the cathode material?
Yeah, that's a very good question. As Dr. Rong mentioned, the cost is one of the most important factors of battery technology. However, it is far more important in automotive application. I will give you an example. In automobile industry, batteries of as little as 0.1 kilowatt hour to as much as 200 kilowatt hour per vehicle are installed. Mild hybrids with some motor functions installed in the internal combustion engine cars are equipped with about 0.1 or 0.4 or 1.0 kilowatt hour at the maximum. On the other hand, the pure electric vehicles are fitted with a minimum of 10 kilowatt hour and a maximum of around 150 kilowatt hour. So simply say the Tesla Model 3 is equipped with around 6,000 iPhone 13 batteries. The amount of batteries installed in 190K units of Tesla Model 3, which is 2/3 of the global sales in 2020, will be the total amount installed in 1.2 billion smartphones sold in 2020 around the world. So I would like to say is that the reason why the electric vehicle market is attracting attention is because of such a large scale of economy. So I think I was talking too much on the size of the market, but if we come back to the question, among such lithium-ion battery subcomponents, the cathode material accounts for around 40 to 50% of the total cell cost in a car. The largest among the four major parts. Therefore, the cathode materials contribute greatly to the cost reduction. On the other hand, cathode materials are also strongly related with technological innovation. The lithium leaf introduced to the market earlier in 2012 had a battery of about 24 kilowatt hour, but recently it has around 62 kilowatt hour, which is 160% increased capacity. This has been achieved actually by the cathode material while keeping the volume of the battery pack. So due to the continuous innovation, the cathode material technology gets close to the maximum of the theoretical energy density. So it is going to be impossible to evolve as much as it has done before. But cathode material had made the greatest contribution to increasing driving range, mainly because of the increasing energy density so far. So this is the implication to the automobile.
Very interesting. So what would you say the pros and cons of NCM and LFP cathode materials are?
Sure. So that's kind of also echoing what I was trying to say in the previous question as well. And so basically, NCM or NMC really has a variety of different compositions. You know, people work with NMC 532 and 622, 811, as well as some of the cutting edge technologies today also are focusing on nickel percentage over 90% as well. We're not necessarily talking about NMC, we can talk about NCA, that's nickel, cobalt, and aluminum. So that's what Tesla's using in their 21700 battery cells. So the higher nickel content you go, the higher energy density you would end up with. So for the pros of NCM cathode materials is really helping you to have a higher energy density, as well as where, like Richard said, we eventually you end up with a higher energy density battery pack, so that you can have a longer cruise range with your EVs. So, but the cons or the disadvantage of NMC is really that it coming from the high nickel content. When you have a high nickel content, that makes your ternary structure, crystal structure of NMC unstable. So what that means in battery pack term or EV term would mean that you have a battery pack that's much easier to cause a thermal runaway. So it's a lot easier to get caught on fire. So that's one of the basically most important disadvantage of a high nickel NMC cathode. So you have to compromise or trade off between high energy density and slightly lower safety, for sure. But with LFP, it's kind of the other way around, really. So LFP has better safety with lower thermal runaway temperature. So it's a lot less likely to have a LFP battery catch on fire. But the problem is, people today work with LFP is facing a slightly like 40% of lower energy density than MC. So normally entry model level EVs would use LFP, no problem. But probably Richard could also elaborate more on that too. You can work around with your pack design so that you can have overall increased pack energy density with LFP, even though you have a lower energy density. But on the other side, LFP also helps with your fast charging cycle life. That's kind of the side advantage of LFP you can play with.
Great. So how are these two types of cathode materials used in the downstream market?
Yeah, the question is for me. So LFP has been mainly used in China, in particular due to the safety regulations. NCM and NCA. NCA refers to nickel, cobalt, and aluminum chemistries were not used in buses. So buses with LFP cathode material dominated the Chinese market. And I think Dr. Wang would know better than me, but I recognize that the application in energy storage system for grid is increasing recently. And as mentioned earlier, the passenger car battery market is the largest one, and more car brands are introducing EVs fitted with LFP batteries. So the market share of LFP in passenger car sector was not remarkable due to the previous Chinese incentive schemes, which is limiting the total subsidies to low energy density EVs. However, the energy as the energy density of LFP improves and incentive policies change, the number of LFP EVs is gradually increasing. LFP has cost advantage, as Dr. Rong mentioned, to NCM and NCA chemistries, and known to be safe and stable during quick charging. And OEMs and pack makers are innovating pack energy density with so-called cell-to-pack technology in order to increase pack energy density. So the technical characteristics of LFP is favorable in low segment and hotter countries, and NCM and NCA are for high segment respectively. So we are making efforts to understand how consumers' demand on driving range and sensitivity to EV price are changing in order to take the implications to our forecast.
On the energy storage system side, for energy storage system integrators, they are growingly in favor of LFP because some of the recent fire accidents occurred in Asia, and so the fire accidents really were caused by ternary cathodes, like what I just mentioned, C, and mostly, of course, ternary cathodes can also mean that we're talking about Tesla's NCA, but in energy storage market, NMC is the currently mostly used battery technology. But now it's kind of the whole industry is kind of moving away from NMC, to use LFP instead. Is the probably the single most important driver is because of the safety that LFP can provide for energy storage system, because it's very important for the grid for the grid to remain stable throughout the energy storage system's lifetime. So with that rise of LFP uptake in energy storage system market, it's really causing some of the supply chain issue, with LFP, because in the automotive market, you also have LFP being increasingly used on entry-level model EVs, like Tesla in China. Model 3s, entry-level Model 3s are using LFP, and they're even shipping that because with the high ramp-up rate happening in China. They're even shipping that model to US markets. So the supply chain issues, like automotive market really consists of the demand for total demand for lithium batteries of 95%. So only 5% of the batteries, around 5%, would go to energy storage market. So in that sense, it's causing automotive manufacturers, they all buying up all the good batteries and leaving, those second tier, third tier batteries to energy storage system integrators. And even sometimes, especially LFP now, it's not yet reached that level of capacity. And since people were not so worried about the safety and mostly you focus on cruise range, now today is leaving 2 or 3 years of and very tight supply chain for supply of LFP to energy storage market, because they're only buying small bulk of batteries and in the shorter term contract. Comparing that to automotive manufacturers, they all having a large contract and a longer term purchasing contract. So that's mostly in favored by cell manufacturer.
So sort of on the LFP topic, who are the market leaders in LFP battery manufacturing?
So the market leaders for LFP are I think 100% at the moment. I would say 99%, 100% are located in China, because currently, according to IHS Markit's analysis, we are looking at about 100% of LFP capacity located in China. So the top, of course, what that means is that we're gonna have top 5 batch LFP suppliers all located in China. That's probably the first name. It would be in the LFP market, it would be CATL. CATL not only is the largest provider of NCM materials, is also the largest provider of LFP, the battery cell supplier. And following up by BYD and Gotion, EVE, Lishan, or some other second tier battery suppliers now gaining a huge market momentum, because the rising demand for LFP. Those first tier suppliers we just mentioned about, they are not in capacity to supply enough batteries to automakers. So here comes some of the second tier suppliers like REPT, CALB. They are all gaining shares in the market today. But if we were to talk about cathode supplier, and what that means is that those LFP cathode materials, not necessarily the whole battery cell. But cathode providers really are in need to really ramp up their capacity, because the rising demand for LFP as the end market side really is causing a huge demand for cathode materials, LFP cathode materials. But over the years, that has people mostly focused on expanding cell manufacturing capacity instead of the materials synthesis capacity, like LFP, for example. So those the key players to look at would be Hunan, Yunnan, and as well as BTR and BYD. BYD is a car manufacturer for sure, but it's very much vertically integrated throughout the value chain, like starting from all the way in the listed mines and having investments in there, and translating that into cathode materials production, and also cell manufacturing and car manufacturing. And Gotion as well, and they are one of the key players in synthesizing LFP, and of course in one of the most important player, Dynononic. Yeah.
Okay. And just before we wrap up today's episode, it would be interesting to know, based on the fact that you're both working on forecasting projects, what would be the barriers or levers for that matter on growing LFP or NCM cathode materials in the mid and longer term?
Well, then let me start first. From demand perspective, the technology is adopted by consumers, right? So far, it is more likely that many consumers are concerning about driving range and requires long driving range EVs. However, as we all know, one doesn't fit all, and there is a market segment which demands shorter driving range and cheaper EVs, especially for the users having a home charger and driving short ranges every day with an EV as a second car. So we IHS Market Automotive as a whole team pay attention to understand consumer demand in order to forecast a better technology. As a result of this, we forecast that more or less 20% of the EV market is going to be LFP chemistry by 2025 and to be stagnated in the future because of rising other technologies like high manganese cathode chemistries that has a bit higher energy density and cost comparativeness to LFP chemistries. So the market is expected to be diverse in the future. As a last comment, we do try to foresee the market with various perspectives, and we'll be very happy to share thoughts and intelligence with the audience if they wish.
Just like Richard said, from our clean energy technology team perspective, LFP will be probably the fastest rising cathode demand in the next decade or so. So that's because mostly driven by automotive demand, of course, because in our overall forecast between 2021 or 2030, automotive demand for lithium-ion batteries really consists of 91%, and the other 4% or 5% will be energy storage, and the other 4 or 5 would be portable electronics market. So it's definitely driven by the automotive developments, and with a better design of the battery pack on the chassis, you could have a higher energy density, longer range, cruise range with LFP. But that's kind of also, this is a lever for growing LFP. But what about barriers? I strongly doubt that we eventually after 2030 or so we're gonna have LFP battery cathode materials sitting alongside with a solid state electrolyte. So I think the whole purpose of having solid electrolyte is to have a higher energy density cathode and more risky energy density like NMC cathode, high nickel NMC like 90%, 80% in a battery cell. So that you can really unleash the full potential of using solid state electrolyte. So I think the barrier for LFP is really because when the solid state battery become available in the market, the demand for LFP could be strongly affected. So, but for NMC, the market momentum is also strong because there's always going to be a market and always a demand need for longer range. You see, for all the Tesla models, high performance ones and the extended range ones, they're still using ternary cathodes. Even NMCA, consists of 4 different elements. Basically, it's a kind of mixture of NMC and NCA. So it's really depending on what type of NMC So MC 53262 are going to be eventually out of market in the late 30s, 2030s. And what about MC A11, NCA90, MCA? All these high nickel cathode materials will be still in the market and strong in demand because they're always going to be a need for energy density, high energy density, and on those performance and higher end electrical vehicles. But eventually, MC has to sit with solid state battery in order to make the battery safer. And MC cathode materials can't do that alone. We have to work with solid state electrolyte. So with that, MC gonna have even stronger growth in probably 20 after 2035 or so, that you can have MC batteries with sitting in the solid state battery platform, so that you could have eventually a safe battery, which you can't really achieve with MC before, but now you can have a high energy density and a safe battery at the same time.
Great. Thank you. This is certainly a very interesting and popular topic, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. A big thank you to you both for joining Autology.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Yania. Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to talk to you all today.
And thank you to all you listeners for tuning in as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode at our autology@ihsmarket.com email, and you can find out much more at autotechinsight.ihsmarket.com. Don't forget to hit all the subscribe, follow, and like buttons to stay on track with the latest Autology podcasts, and we look forward to you joining us again in the next episode. Bye for now.